Thank you for the opportunity to talk today. I'm excited to tell you about our innovation and strategy to help mitigate the contributions of the operating room to the climate crisis. Regarding disclosures, in addition to being a surgeon, I am employed by Kids Operating Room and Global Hospital as the Chief Medical Officer. So if you turn on the news, you will inevitably be reminded of the fact that widespread power outages persist as a global challenge. They affect communities across the world with varying degrees of severity, and the disruptions can be attributed to a multitude of factors which can damage critical infrastructure like power lines and substations. Additionally, aging power grids and inadequate maintenance contribute to the vulnerability of these electrical systems, especially in developing regions, with the WHO estimating close to 1 billion people globally served by healthcare facilities with absent or unreliable electricity. And it's not specific to one continent or another. On every single continent, governments and energy providers grapple with the task of modernizing and fortifying this power infrastructure to mitigate the challenges and ensure a reliable and resilient energy supply for the growing global population. In hospitals, grid blackouts cause power spikes and voltage irregularities, which can damage sensitive medical equipment. And in many low-resource settings, rising fuel prices mean backup diesel generators are too expensive to maintain. This is a picture at one of our partner hospitals of the backup light for the operating room when there are outages. At Kids Operating Room, we install state-of-the-art, child-friendly operating rooms in low and middle-income countries. We've done 88 operating rooms in 40 countries around the world and have experienced and heard that repeatedly the impact of outages and the fact that it's the patients who are really the ones who are vulnerable when there's a power outage. Beginning with all of the equipment procurement that we do in our ORs, we've already done a lot of work trying to find energy-efficient, reliable equipment with built-in battery backup, surge protection, low voltage use, and even small UPS systems and voltage stabilizers. However, the outages continue to impact surgery in almost every country we work in. So based on what we were seeing, Kids OR established this commercial company called Global Hospital to address the problem of outages in the surgical space with the intention to deliver commercial innovation, but with nonprofit impact. The conditions of electrical infrastructure in the hospitals we work in is often far from ideal. This is a photo by one of our team in Rwanda, and this is the main three-phase power supply of power to the entire hospitals, and you can see the joint and the cables just twisted and taped together. And these are very typical examples of what we find in the operating room. It's bad enough, obviously, to have sockets hanging out of the wall, but upon closer inspection, you can see there's no grounding connection at all. We do our best to resolve these issues for the rooms where we install, but this often leads us to upgrading and rewiring entire theater suites, or sometimes living with less than optimal infrastructure. So to better understand the scope of the problem, we monitored outages at 4 sites in 4 different countries over a 3-month time period. The number of outages ranged from 35 to 107, and the average outage lasted 103 minutes. So they're incredibly prevalent. They're also incredibly disruptive. They last for significant amounts of time, every few days, and massively disrupt the care that's going on for the patients. As you might expect, unfortunately, the main power source for almost all of our operating rooms is the main power grid. And as I mentioned before, grid blackouts cause power spikes and voltage irregularities that damage the equipment that we're providing and ultimately shorten its lifespan. So born out of our experience, we designed a solution to address the electrical instability. So for surgeons in low-resource settings where the outages can compromise life-saving care, our solar surgery system gives an immediate and primary stable power source for them to perform surgery, and has the important benefits of improving outcomes for patients, reducing operational costs for hospitals, and decreasing the carbon footprint in the community. So our engineers developed an array of panels that we usually try to source locally. We mount them on a roof near the operating room, and they feed and charge the smart battery unit, which is then the primary power supply for all of the medical equipment in the OR. The system charges very quickly. Even fully drained, it will recharge to full in about 90 minutes with both solar power and mains, and in only 3 hours with just solar power. The system has a single plugged connection to the hospital supply as an emergency backup. So if the battery or panels ever get damaged, the equipment still gets power. So with the system, in addition to the operating room equipment being completely powered by solar, all of the equipment is also surge protected, thereby prolonging its lifespan and the facility's infrastructure investment. With normal use after sundown, there's more than 8 hours of backup power, so the system can be used during nighttime hours. Ecologically responsible, the system reduces the carbon footprint of a healthcare facility and removes the reliance on the diesel and hydroelectric generators, which can be expensive, unreliable, and environmentally destructive. It has a carbon reduction of an average of 2.6 tons per year for each operating room. We use a lithium phosphate battery. They're known for their high level of safety. They're cleared to be transported by air and are extremely long-lasting, on average for about a 10-year lifespan. They can also be recycled at the end. The lithium cells don't pose an environmental risk, and all of the features can be controlled and monitored using a simple-to-use app. We performed our initial tests in a mock operating room in Dundee, Scotland, where we're based. And then in our second phase, the system was deployed to hospitals in Nigeria, the DRC, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe. We are currently in use in over 30 hospitals in 10 different countries, and last weekend we were installed in a refugee camp in Kenya. I will say that while our team was installing, multiple departments approached us and asked us if they could also get the solar power for multiple units there. So the response that we've gotten has been incredible. Our partner sites have really called this a game changer, especially as a lot of our sites use anesthetic machines that concentrate oxygen. So when the power goes out, the oxygen supply is actually gone. And I think the most poignant part of this quote from one of our colleagues was that the system gives us hope when all we have is darkness. So we developed the solution because we saw what our partner surgeons were experiencing, and we really wanted to make sure that we were protecting patients and providing quality care on every corner of the globe. So we have tried to create a solution that is delivering value but being accessible without compromising quality. And we provide 3 years of maintenance and installation along with the solars to make sure that the places we're installing actually are able to understand the usage of it and get support, because the last thing we would want to do is contribute to the equipment graveyards, which any of us who've done global work have inevitably seen. We've had some amazing responses to this and are working with some very exciting partners. We will now be in 70 hospitals in 20 countries around the world by the end of next month. And really, the next part of this gets us to what our secondary focus will be, which is working in areas with even less infrastructure than the ones we're working in currently, which is really those areas that are disaster relief and conflict zones. Ukraine, Gaza, Haiti have all been in the news within the last couple of weeks, where people are operating by flashlight, trying to take care of patients. So our next goal is really to provide a prototype and a version that can be used in areas of high rain, wind, dust, and the solar panels can be placed on the ground and don't actually need conventional infrastructure. So hopefully we'll be able to continue to deliver this technology for people who really are using it as a lifeline in these incredibly challenging conditions. So happy to take any questions, but hopefully I've given you a sense of what we as a nonprofit have been able to do in terms of responding to the needs that we've seen by our partners on the ground. Thanks.